welcome to another episode of 500 Questions. I am so excited and honored because I have Sarah Hoover here with me. Sarah grew up in Indiana, then she moved to New York to study art in NYU. Then she also got a master's in Columbia University here in New York as well. And now she is the director at Gagosian at Chelsea. Not only she is in the art world, but she's also a fashion icon. She is um, an art, food connoisseur, and she is very inspiring. She has an upcoming book as well of motherhood from her own experience. And welcome, Sarah.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me and for a very generous introduction. I'm happy to be here.
I am so excited. So the first question is for you to tell us a little about your work, the artists you represent, and how do you choose with who you want to work with?
So, like you said, I work at Gagosian, where I've been an employee for like almost 14 years. It was my first job. I was still in grad school when I started working there. And I was an assistant for a long time, which was super formative and important. And then I started working with artists and doing some sales on my own and sort of gradually moved out of the assistant role. And now I'm a director and I'm based in the 24th Street location. So I've worked with lots of different artists over the probably last 10 years. And when I was an assistant, I assisted someone who was also an artist liaison. So I worked with many artists in an assistant capacity as well. Right now, I work with the painter Walton Ford and the painter Ellen Gallagher, and a little bit with the photographer Vera Luter, who has also other representation within the gallery. They were mostly assigned to me. There are artists that either were already shown by the gallery and the person within the system of the gallery who worked with them left or graduated to a different role or something like that. Or they were artists that Larry was separately interested in, who he asked me to help bring into the gallery. So there is also the opportunity you have to propose new artists to Larry if you're interested in an artist that maybe he's not aware of or hasn't thought about showing yet. And some people kind of specialize in that, finding artists that are new to the gallery. I'm not one of those people, and I get a lot of like submission requests on Instagram and stuff, which is, I wish I could help people more, but the gallery has a pretty strict policy of not showing artists who have not had a major museum show, so that's already quite limiting, and there are specific people within the gallery who are really look for newer artists, new to us at least. And I also do some sales. It's not my primary focus, but of course, because I work closely with a handful of artists, I have very special access to works coming out of their studios, since I know what's happening in the studios. But I really wear like any hat at the gallery. I mean, over the years, I've worked in events and public relations and, on the writing team, publications. I kind of have worn many hats there, which I really like, and it's kept it really fun and dynamic, and it's a very special place where you can kind of make your own path if you have good ideas and can figure out how to execute them.
Amazing. The second question is a little bit more political, which I feel like in today's scenario is very important. And is that you have been very outspoken about your political position as well as about the challenges that being a woman in today's art scene represents. So what do you consider to be the core problem with patriarchy in the art world?
I don't think that there's anything inherently different about the art world that makes patriarchy more pernicious or dangerous there than anywhere else. I think it's a problem of our world in general. So of course it manifests itself in the art world, but it's not special to the art world, But I think like Jenny Holzer, the most amazing artist, she's a wonderful artist who we all know and love, says it best that abuse of power comes as no surprise. So great text piece by her. And I think in a world where men historically have not faced a lot of accountability, and they've been aided and abetted by systems to not only have all of the power, but abuse it at will and not have repercussions associated with that. I think it's inevitable that those kinds of abuses happen. And, there are all sorts of unconscious biases that people have. And of course, we're learning more and more about that now, though it's existed for a really long time, specifically in regards to people of color, Black people. But I think that those same sorts of biases also exist for women. And when men walk into an art gallery looking to buy a piece of art, if there's two art dealers standing there, they go to the one that looks like them, who's a man, more often than not. And I don't think that's comes out of maliciousness. I think it's just a kind of unconscious bias that most people develop in this world. So I don't think the art world's different than any other world, but I do think that a lack of accountability is problematic in any system. And I also think that women who suffer and feel, excluded or abused in any way, their silence is counted on, because there would be more accountability if women were not so ashamed and could be more outspoken. And it's not that I blame women for being that way. It's a rational decision in the face of a world that is not constructed to help you. I think that if there are women out there who are kind of brave enough to be loud in the face of power structures that do not support them, that would definitely be really helpful. I of course understand why women are not, but yeah, and I think that any woman who's in the art world and who is able to speak up and who isn't is not doing anyone a service.
Definitely. I believe you partially answered the third question, but is how do you believe women can be a part of the change and the solution?
Yeah. So short of, speaking out and speaking up, which is really scary. And as I said, there's many, many rational and important reasons why you wouldn't do either of those things. I think there's so much that can be done in just changing a really male driven culture that exists in our world in general. And that can be really simple. Like, it can just be being really kind and trying really hard to help other women in your field who are maybe younger than you or in lower positions. Just even offering to have a coffee with someone one day who's an assistant when you're no longer an assistant, explaining the ropes to them a little bit, giving people second chances when they mess up, and like trying to be really kind about fuck ups. Like, I think when I was first coming out of being an assistant and being more of a leader in my own career, I was really harsh on the people below me because people had been really harsh to me. But I think that perpetuating those kinds of toxic workplace reactions is not really in anyone's best interest, because I think that comes out of a very particularly cliched male idea of what power looks like. And if we can kind of restructure what power looks like on individual terms and be like really kind and helpful to other people and lead by example, I think that's a start. And I think just trying to give a leg up to anyone you see who maybe didn't have the door held open for them due to what they look like and their position in life and the privilege that they come into the system with can actually like help a lot of change. And of course, I think like also I feel very lucky that I can even say this, but I think that giving back to the community, particularly to arts organizations that support arts education and experiences for people who normally don't have the privilege that is a normal thing in their life.
So that's the fourth question, which,
Right.
which is that your work also expands to supporting nonprofits such as Reese's Arts and American Ballet Theater, and how have you collaborated with them, or if you can give us an example or something, or
Sure. I feel so fortunate that I'm in a place in my life. I mean, when I was a little girl, I was a ballerina and I loved ballet so much. And I never in a million years thought that one day, I think maybe I thought it was more likely that I'd be a famous ballerina than I ever thought that I'd be able to financially support the America's national company, American Ballet Theater, which is, you know, a world-renowned international dance company that's based in New York City. And there are dancers from like 15 countries and 30 states, and it's this really powerhouse place with an amazing history. And I just feel really lucky that I'm involved in these nonprofits that I think are so important to the cultural fabric of New York. But at American Ballet Theater, I co-founded a young council with two other women, one of whom is in the film industry and one of whom is in the fashion industry. And our goal is to cross-pollinate people from our respective industries in the ballet world, because we all really believe that people who are passionate about what they do have the creative power to come up with ideas that can help the reach of ABT. And at Recess Arts, which is a wonderful nonprofit that's based in Dumbo, which is they offer a submission based grants to artists for 1 to 3 months, and it gives them a stipend in a studio space, and in that studio space they can then show their work. It's a street facing gallery, but it also, and the projects that we support are related to social justice, but there's also another incredible element to it that is more specifically social justice related, which is that we provide arts education training to young adults who have committed felonies in New York City, as an option for them to avoid having to serve prison time. So that is like very on the ground, you know, that's like changing. I think we've had about 200 young adults go through our program in the last few years. And I mean, at the last Whitney Biennial, we had something like 13 artists who had come through our grant program who participated in the biennial. So this is, they're really results driven. And I think that's great. You know, I mean, ABT is also incredible, but it exists in a kind of more rarefied space. And I really like that. I'm so lucky that I get to do nonprofit work in both of those spaces.
That's amazing. And the last question, the fifth question, is that in your opinion, what are some of the major changes that you see happening in the art world after the pandemic?
Everyone is pivoting to being not just a company that sells art, but really a media company as well, because we are creating content constantly for the internet, since that is the way that most people are engaging with the outside world right now. So Gagosian has been at the forefront of that, of course. We've developed these private viewing rooms online, and online exhibitions, online art fairs. We have a new initiative that debuts soon that pairs musicians, filmmakers, artists together to create experiences that people can participate in from the comfort of their homes. I think all of that is wonderful, and there will be more of that, I'm sure. And I think as things open up, it will be less about art, well, galas and dinners for 200 or 300 people. I think that model is really being rethought right now. And I hope that it will be more about small curated gatherings of interesting and intelligent people from all walks of life. I have long believed in the power of art and artists to look at social justice issues and think of solutions that like normal people don't come up with, because they look at the world in normal ways. And as you know, artists do not look at the world in normal ways. That's why they're artists. And I think that art is a really powerful tool for social justice. It shows people that there are other ways of living and other realities and other ways to look at problems. And I hope that what this pandemic has shown everyone, especially those of us lucky enough to be in the art world, which is, you know, a great privilege and fortune, that we can use our like collective brain trust, which is so special, to try and solve some of those issues. And if it's over a delicious dinner in celebration of an artist, I don't think that's a bad thing. But I hope that our current situation kind of redirects people's energies to being sort of the anti-Donald Trump and the pro-intellectual moment that we deserve, you know?
Yes, yes. Let's hope for that, definitely. So, thank you so much for being here at Five Word Questions, and follow Sarah Hoover on Instagram. You'll have a blast with everything she posts. and stay tuned for the next episode.
Thank you. Talk to you soon.